"You're sure you're my date?" the woman across from him asked, her voice dripping with disdain. Warm golden light filled the upscale restaurant. A man in an old dress shirt sat at a corner table, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. "I think there might be some mistake." She laughed coldly, standing up. "I don't have time for cheap men." As she walked away, a server rushed over. "Sir, I'm so sorry. She was at the wrong table." He looked to the side. At the next table over, a different woman turned around. Her eyes were calm, elegant, kind. "Did you sit at the wrong table?" she asked, smiling gently. "Maybe, but this might be the best mistake of my life. I'm Elara Quinn, and if you don't mind, please sit down." Their eyes met. Daniel didn't know that the woman before him was the CEO of the very building where he mopped floors every morning. Daniel Ross was 36 years old, a single father, formerly an aerospace mechanical engineer for a defense contractor. 6 years ago, during a jet engine testing project, he discovered a critical technical flaw. When he reported it to his supervisors, they'd buried the warning to meet their deadline. The project was too important, too expensive, too politically sensitive to delay. The test that day ended in an explosion. 2 engineers were seriously injured, one of them Daniel's wife Emma, who worked on the same team. Daniel became the scapegoat, blamed for faulty design procedures, fired and banned from practicing engineering for 5 years. His professional certifications were revoked, his reputation destroyed. With no opportunity to return to his profession, he took a job as a custodian at Quinn Tower, the very building he'd once dreamed of designing systems for. Despite being labeled a failed engineer, Daniel lived quietly, raising his daughter Leah, 9 years old. The only person who still believed Dad can still fix anything. Every morning he woke at 5 a.m., made breakfast, walked Leah to school, then went to clean the floors on the 42nd level, the same floor where he'd once stood as chief engineer, presenting designs to executives. Life moved in this quiet rhythm until a coworker teased him into creating a dating app profile just for fun. A message arrived, "Bind at 7 p.m. corner table." It led him to Lumina Restaurant, a place exclusively for the upper class. The date turned into a disaster, public humiliation in front of a crowded restaurant. But that mistake led him to Elara Quinn, the young CEO of Quinn Group. She was impressed by something, he said. "Being poor isn't shameful. It's only frightening if it makes you forget what kindness means." When she left, she placed a business card on the table. "If you've ever done technical work, come to Quinn Tower on Monday. I need someone who understands how things break and has the courage to fix them." Daniel walked home through cold streets, the business card burning in his pocket like a secret. When he arrived, Leah was still awake, folding paper airplanes at the kitchen table. "Dad, look! I made one that actually flies straight." She launched it, and it soared across the small apartment before landing softly on the couch. "That's beautiful, sweetheart. Do you think you'll ever build real planes again?" The question hit harder than she could know. "I don't know, maybe someday." "I think you will, because you're the best fixer in the world." After she went to bed, Daniel sat at the table looking at the business card. Elara Quinn, CEO, a woman who'd sat through an awkward wrong table encounter and somehow seen past his worn clothes and embarrassment. He picked up one of Leah's paper airplanes. On the wing, she'd written in careful letters, "Dad can still fly." He placed it on his desk next to the business card and made a decision. Monday. He'd go Monday. That night, he dreamed of engine designs for the first time in years. Complex schematics flowing through his mind like water. When he woke, his hands were moving as if drawing blueprints on invisible air. The muscle memory never left. The knowledge never faded. Only the permission to use it had been taken away. Monday morning, Daniel arrived at Quinn Tower earlier than usual. He held the business card in his pocket like a talisman. The building where he cleaned floors was about to become something else entirely. A place where maybe, just maybe, he could be more than the man with the mop. He didn't know it yet, but sitting at the wrong table had changed everything. Sometimes the best things in life come from mistakes. Sometimes wrong turns lead to right destinations. And sometimes the person you meet by accident is the person you were meant to find all along. Monday arrived with gray skies and nervous energy. Daniel showed up at Quinn Tower early, clutching Elara's business card. He was told to report to the 42nd floor, the executive level. The same level he cleaned every morning before the executives arrived. The irony wasn't lost on him. Elara emerged from a conference room, her expression professionally neutral until she saw him. Then she smiled. "We meet again. Wrong tables seem to bring good luck, don't they? Or right timing. Same thing sometimes." She led him to a technical control room he'd never been allowed to access during his cleaning shifts. Banks of monitors displayed building systems, power grids, emergency protocols. "Our backup energy system has been malfunctioning," she explained. "The technicians can't figure out why. It fails every diagnostic but shows no clear fault. I need someone who thinks differently." Daniel studied the displays. "This is a Meridian 4 system. I helped design the original specs 6 years ago." "I know. That's why you're here." He looked at her, startled. "You knew who I was?" "I did my research after Saturday." Daniel Ross, formerly chief engineer at Titan Defense, fired after the incident, banned from practice. But the engineers who actually investigated the explosion said your warnings were correct, that you tried to stop it. No one else believed that. "I do. Now, can you fix my system?" He approached the monitors, fingers hovering over controls he hadn't touched in years. "I'm just a custodian now." "No one is just anything. You're an engineer who cleans floors to survive. Big difference." Over the following days, they worked together, late nights in the control room, eating takeout from paper boxes, talking about things they'd lost and scraps of hope they'd managed to keep. Daniel explained the system's flaw. "It's not broken. It's designed wrong. Whoever installed it didn't account for harmonic resonance in the power coupling. Under specific loads, it creates feedback that looks like failure but isn't. Can you fix it?" "I can redesign the coupling, but I'd need access to fabrication equipment." "Done. Whatever you need." One rainy evening, Elara accidentally overheard Daniel on a video call with Leah. "I know it's late, sweetheart. Dad's got a bit more work, but I promise everything gets bright again eventually." Leah's voice through the speaker, sleepy and trusting. "I know, Dad. You always fix things." "That's my job, isn't it? Fixing things for you." "No, Dad, your job is being my hero. The fixing is just a bonus." Elara stood behind the door, eyes stinging with unexpected tears. This man, treated like disposable labor by the world, was someone's entire universe. When Daniel finished the call, she was waiting. "Do you teach your daughter to believe in things you can't see yet?" "I teach her to believe in things I'm trying to fix." "There's a difference, Richard." Elara laughed, but her eyes were suspiciously wet. She told him about her father, the founder of Quinn Group, who'd worked himself to death by 50. "I inherited an empire, but no one taught me how to keep the human part intact. Just the profitable part." Daniel picked up a small bolt from the work table, holding it to the light. "You know what this is worth? 5 cents, but put it in the right place in an aircraft, and it holds together something carrying 300 people. Value isn't about cost. It's about context." She stared at him. "That's the most profound thing anyone said to me in a boardroom." "This isn't a boardroom. This is where real work happens." They fell into a rhythm. Daniel would arrive after his morning cleaning shift, work on the redesign, then leave in time to pick up Leah from school. Elara would bring coffee, ask questions, learn to see engineering not as abstract numbers, but as elegant solutions to physical problems. "Why did you become an engineer?" she asked one evening. "Because things make sense. When a system fails, there's a reason. Not like people. When people fail you, sometimes there's no reason at all. Your wife's death, you blame yourself." It wasn't a question. He didn't answer for a long time. "She was in that room because I told her the test was safe. I reviewed everything 3 times. But I didn't know about the suppressed flaw report. So when I said safe, I was lying without knowing it. That's not your fault. She died believing my assessment. That makes it my responsibility." Elara reached across the table, touching his hand lightly. "Your daughter believes you too. Are you going to prove her wrong by giving up? Or prove her right by being exactly who she thinks you are?" The question hung in the air between them. Outside, rain continued to fall. Inside, something was shifting. 2 people who'd given up on connection slowly carefully reaching toward each other. Later that week, Elara was going through old maintenance logs and found something Daniel had left behind. A small metal bolt, "Chamo," engraved carefully with two words, "Try again." She held it up when he arrived. "What's this?" "Something I kept from the accident site, the bolt that should have held the safety panel closed. If it had been properly torqued, the explosion would have been contained. Every day I look at it and remember that second chances matter, that you try again even when you fail. Is that what this is? A second chance? For both of us, maybe." She set the bolt down carefully on his workspace, a talisman of resilience neither of them had known they needed. That night, as Daniel walked home, he realized something. For the first time in 6 years, he'd gone an entire day without feeling like a failure. He'd been useful, valued, seen not for what he'd lost, but for what he could still do. It felt like breathing after years of holding his breath. And when Leah asked at dinner, "Did you have a good day, Dad?" he could honestly answer, "Yes, sweetheart, I really did." Small victories. But for a man who'd forgotten what victory felt like, small was monumental. The rumors started within a week. The CEO is involved with the janitor. Whispers in elevators, knowing looks in hallways, speculation that grew more vicious with each retelling. The board of directors called an emergency meeting. 12 stern faces around a mahogany table, concern masks over barely concealed ambition. "Miss Quinn," the chairman began, his voice heavy with false sympathy, "we've received reports about your relationship with a member of the custodial staff. This creates an optics problem for the company." Elara met his gaze steadily. "I'm working with an engineer on a technical problem. The fact that he also cleans floors is irrelevant." "An engineer? He's a disgraced former employee with a negligence record. He's a professional who was scapegoated to protect executives who ignored his safety warnings. I've read the investigation reports, the real ones, not the sanitized versions released to the public. Your judgment is being questioned." "Then question away. I haven't done anything wrong. I've simply treated someone with basic human decency. If that troubles you, perhaps you should examine why." The meeting ended badly. Ultimatums were implied, if not stated. Elara left shaking with anger. Daniel found out about the meeting from another custodian. "Man, you're causing trouble for the boss lady. Maybe you should back off." That night, he went to her office. She was still there, city lights spread below her windows like a carpet of stars. "You don't need to invite trouble because of me." She turned from the window. "You taught me to trust real people. I'm not letting them take that away. I'm not worth your career. That's not your decision to make. And I think you're worth considerably more than you believe." Before he could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the building. Security breach on the server floor. A military project data leak, classified information exposed. Elara was immediately accused. As CEO, she had access. As someone who'd been acting erratically by socializing with staff, she had means and opportunity. The board moved quickly to freeze her accounts and initiate removal proceedings. "It's a setup," Daniel said immediately when he heard. "Someone's using the leak to destroy you." "But who? Who benefits most from you being gone?" They both realized at the same time. Lucas Denton, the vice president, had been angling for the CEO position since before Elara's father died. Daniel spent 3 days quietly investigating. He'd learned during his cleaning shifts that people ignored custodians. They talked freely, left documents unsealed, forgot that the man with the mop had ears and eyes. He found the evidence on the third night. Access logs showing Lucas's credentials used to copy military files. Email trails carefully hidden, but not carefully enough. A digital breadcrumb path from Lucas to several defense contractors willing to pay for secrets. But proving it required accessing the secure server room. The same room Daniel had been banned from the touching for 6 years. "If I go in there, I'm committing a crime," he told Elara. "If you don't, I lose everything, and Lucas gets away with treason. That's not a choice, that's a sacrifice. Then don't do it. I won't ask you to throw away your future for mine." Daniel looked at her, this woman who'd seen past his failures to the person underneath. "I've been throwing away my future for 6 years. Maybe it's time I invested it in something that matters." That night, he used his custodial access to enter the building. The server room door required biometric clearance he didn't have, but he'd learned bypass techniques during his engineering days. The door opened. He copied the access logs, the emails, the financial transactions, everything needed to prove Lucas's guilt and Elara's innocence. He was downloading the final files when security arrived. "Step away from the terminal." Daniel raised his hands, USB drive clutched in his palm. "I'm unarmed. I'm just trying to help." They arrested him anyway. System intrusion, unauthorized access, potential espionage. The charges stacked up like weights meant to drown him. Elara arrived before they could take him away. She faced Lucas directly in front of the security team and arriving police. "You did this. You leaked the files and blamed me to take my position." Lucas smiled condescendingly. "Prove it." "Oh, wait, you can't, because this janitor here destroyed any credible evidence by stealing it illegally." Daniel held out the USB drive. "Then you won't mind if we examine this, since it contains nothing but my alleged crimes, right?" Lucas's smile faltered. "Arrest me," Daniel continued, "but make sure everything on this drive gets entered into evidence. Let investigators verify every file, every timestamp, every access log, because I'm very confident about what they'll find." The next 12 hours were chaos. Daniel and Holding answering questions, Elara working with investigators, proving the USB data was authentic. Lucas scrambling to lawyer up as his digital empire collapsed. By morning, the truth was undeniable. Lucas had leaked classified information, attempted to frame Elara, and embezzled company funds. He was arrested on site. Perp walked through the lobby he'd hoped to command. Elara came to the police station, her lawyer securing Daniel's release. Charges dropped. The DA said what you did was illegal but necessary. You're free. They stood on the courthouse steps, exhausted, surviving. "Thank you," she said, "for risking everything. You would have done the same." "I like to think so, but I'm not sure I'm as brave as you." Bravery isn't about not being scared. It's about doing what's right even when you are. Later, back at Quinn Tower, the board held another emergency meeting, this time to apologize and beg Elara to stay. She stood before them, calm and resolved. "I'm stepping down as CEO." Shocked silence. "Not because you want me gone, but because I want to build something that actually matters. This company forgot that profit without purpose is just greed. I'm going to remind everyone what we should be." She placed her CEO badge on the table. "If the position prevents me from choosing who I trust, I don't need it." She walked out, Daniel beside her, leaving behind the executives who'd never understood that leadership means more than a title. Sometimes you have to give up power to gain freedom. Sometimes the wrong table is exactly where you need to be. And sometimes the best thing you can build isn't a company, it's a life. 1 month after leaving Quinn Group, Elara launched Fixer Labs. Not a corporation, but a training center for people who'd lost jobs, lost careers, lost hope. A place where second chances weren't just talked about, but actively built. Daniel became the first instructor, teaching mechanical engineering, system design, practical problem solving. Skills he'd thought he'd never use again. They rented an old factory floor, painted the walls themselves, installed bright lights, wrote their mission statement in bold letters across the entrance. "We fix what's broken, including trust." Leah came after school, joining other children whose parents were students. She'd set up a corner with paper airplanes covering the ceiling with suspended craft until the room looked like a frozen moment of flight. "Do you miss being CEO?" Daniel asked Elara one evening as they cleaned up after class. "No, I miss the resources sometimes, but not the title, not the power, not the isolation." She looked around at the factory floor, students' projects on every workbench. "This matters more. Even though you're making a fraction of what you used to, money buys comfort, purpose buys peace. I prefer peace." They worked side by side, teaching during the day, designing curriculum at night. The students came from everywhere, laid-off factory workers, disabled veterans, former inmates, people society had written off. Fixer Labs wrote them back in. One afternoon, Daniel was demonstrating engine repair when he noticed an older woman crying quietly at her workstation. He approached gently. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. I'm 72 years old. I lost my job 3 years ago and thought I was done. But here I am learning again, useful again. I'd forgotten what that felt like." Daniel had to walk away before his own tears betrayed him. This was why they'd built this place, for moments exactly like this. Elara found him on the roof deck, looking at the city skyline. "You okay?" "Better than okay. I spent 6 years thinking I was useless. Turns out I just needed permission to be useful in a different way." "You never needed permission. You just needed to remember who you were." "I think I needed someone to remind me, someone stubborn enough not to give up even when I had." She moved closer, their shoulders touching. "I brought something." She pulled out a dried bouquet, the wildflowers from their first meeting, preserved and fragile. "You kept them?" "You forgot them on the table that night. I've been saving them, waiting for the right time to return them." "Keep them. They belong with someone who appreciates small, beautiful things more than grand gestures." Is that what we are? Small and beautiful? Compared to corporate empires and military projects? Yes. But I'll take small and beautiful over grand and hollow any day. They stood together watching the sunset, two people who'd lost everything conventional success promised, finding something more valuable in the wreckage. That weekend, they took Laya to a park. She ran ahead, launching paper airplanes, each one carrying a wish written on the wings. "What do you wish for?" Elara asked, watching the girl play. "I used to wish for my old life back, my career, my reputation, my wife. Now I just wish for more moments like this." That's growth. That's survival. Growing and surviving look the same from certain angles. Leah ran back breathless. "Miss Elara, are you going to marry Dad?" Elara choked on her coffee. Daniel turned red. Leah stood there innocently waiting for an answer. That's a question for adults to figure out," Daniel managed. "But you like each other, right?" "Very much," Elara said, finding her voice. "But liking someone and being ready for marriage are different things." "Okay, but if you're not ready, just wait. That's what Dad says. Wait until you're sure, then go all in." After Leah ran off again, they looked at each other. "She's not subtle," Daniel said. "She's honest. There's a difference." "Elara, not yet. Let's build what we're building first. Make sure the foundation is solid. Then we can talk about what comes next." Is that the engineer talking or the former CEO? Both. Some things shouldn't be rushed. But that evening, Elara created a small display in Fixer Labs, the dried bouquet in a glass case with a plaque underneath, "The wrong table, where everything started." Students asked about it. She'd smile and say, "That's where I learned that mistakes can be gifts if you were brave enough to see them differently." Leah made them a paper airplane, carefully decorated. On one wing, Dad. On the other, Elara. On the body, "Together we fly." It hung above the entrance, slowly spinning in the breeze from the open windows. A promise, a hope, a family being carefully constructed from broken pieces and stubborn faith. "You know what I learned?" Daniel said, standing under the airplane with Elara. "What's that?" "That you don't need blueprints to build something important. You just need the right people and the courage to try." That's very wise for a custodian. Former custodian, now I'm a fixer. Big difference. She laughed, and the sound filled every corner of the factory floor, bright and alive, and completely perfectly free. 6 months later, Fixer Labs had trained 200 people. 70% found jobs in their field. The rest started their own small businesses, a network of second chances spreading like ripples. One morning, sunlight poured through the factory windows, illuminating the sign above the door in golden light. Elara made coffee. Daniel organized lesson plans. Leah ran circles around the workbenches, supervising everything with 9-year-old authority. "I never imagined finding home in a place that smells like oil and metal," Elara said, watching steam rise from her cup. "Home doesn't need to be clean. It just needs to be real." Daniel opened the windows. Wind carried the scent of machine oil, wildflowers from the vacant lot next door, and warm sunlight. On the desk, the dried bouquet still sat in its glass case, now labeled the wrong table, with the date of their first meeting. Students would ask about it, and Elara would tell the story, watching their faces light up with the hope that mistakes could become miracles. Laya pointed at it. Can we rename this place Home Lab instead of Fixer Labs? Elara looked at Daniel. What do you think? I think we should stay, because we found something worth fixing. Each other, this place, ourselves. That's a lot of fixing. Good thing we're professionals. She took his hand. Sunlight reflected off the wooden sign someone had carved and hung by the door. Family isn't where you're born, it's where you stay and choose to stay again. That afternoon, they had a small celebration. Students brought food, stories, laughter. The factory floor that had once produced industrial parts now produced something more valuable. Dignity, purpose, community. Daniel stood at the front, addressing the gathered students. When I lost my career, I thought I'd lost my identity. Turns out I just lost one version of myself. There were other versions waiting, better versions maybe, versions that understood that success isn't about titles or money. It's about mattering to people who matter to you. Elara added, I was CEO of a corporation worth billions. I gave that up for this. Not because I'm noble or sacrificing, but because this is real. Those boardrooms were performance. This is life. Later, after everyone left, the three of them sat on the roof deck. Leah fell asleep between them, clutching a paper airplane she'd decorated with stars. Do you regret it? Daniel asked quietly. Everything you gave up? Every single day. And then I come here and remember why I did it, and the regret disappears. What made you do it? Really? You could have kept your position, done charity work on the side, maintained your wealth. You did. You jumped into a server room knowing it would cost you everything. You taught me that some things are worth the con. People, truth, love. Those things don't negotiate. You go all in or you get nothing. When did you know? That I loved you? The night I heard you talking to Leah on the phone. You were exhausted, overworked, paid almost nothing. But you told her everything would get bright again, and you believed it. That's when I knew I wanted to be part of your light. He kissed her forehead. We're crazy, you know, giving up everything for this. We didn't give up everything. We traded certainty for meaning. I'll take that trade every time. Leah stirred, mumbled in her sleep. Don't worry, Dad. I've got the blueprints. They laughed softly. Even asleep, she was trying to fix things. Below them, the city spread out in lights and shadows. Somewhere out there, other people were sitting at wrong tables, making mistakes that would change their lives. And in a factory that smelled of hope and oil and second chance, a family built from broken pieces proved that wrong turns sometimes lead to exactly where you need to be. Let's go home, Elara said. We're already there, Daniel replied. And they were. If you believe stories of healing like this deserve to be told, leave a comment and subscribe to Hidden Heart Stories. We tell the stories that shouldn't be forgotten.